education and being innovative in any field is no different. Sometimes we like to call things best practices. I like to say, what works for the kid right in front of me? And so what we try to do is empower our teachers through some series of resources, things that I brought from my last school, things that other teachers brought from their last school, because everyone who I hired from my last school, I hired because they had an individual strength. And then my first meeting, I sat down with them and said, yep, I'm the boss, I'm the leader of the team from a management standpoint, but for this thing to work, for it to be a village, we have to have a shared vision. So the first thing we started doing is identifying what's your superpower, what's your superpower, what's your superpower. And then I would say, actually, no, this is the reason I hired you. And you're going to be working with somebody who has completely different superpowers. And our job is collectively, to the point of building up teacher capacity, is build up everybody's capacity as adult learners. Because once educators believe that, then they do an amazing job of modeling it. And so today in our classes, I mean, I think certainly my 23 years, this is the tightest, strongest parent and educator community that I've ever been involved with. I think when our folks go out and knew the school was going to close and walked around and looked at other schools, there's some really neat programs out there. And this school has a beautiful art studio, and this school has 12 acres, and this school has this other thing over here. But one thing they really missed was that connection as a family, not just a child, but as a family to school. But I think that's really where it starts, relationships. And then during the school day, we cultivate that. There's a rolling drop-off time because, well, I don't know, how many people live on the other side of the bay? I heard a couple Fremont folks were in here today. Daily San Mateo and above. Nobody? Oh, over there. San Jose? San Jose? All right, so people are pretty spread out. So we have a rolling drop-off, and that means some people show up at 8 o'clock, and some kids don't show up till right at 9 o'clock. Okay, some of us show up at 9:05. And when, during that time, they're in mixed age groups, TK through 8th grade, hanging out and playing soccer out front, or in the classroom if they're going to do a quiet study piece. We go outside every day, unless it's a torrential downstorm, but otherwise we go outside. And then class starts. Class starts, they go into mixed age groups. And our mixed age group for next year, at the first year, will most likely be TKK, an early childhood group. And then kids who are 1st and 2nd and 3rd grade together. And children who are 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. And we might have a few 7th graders with us as well. And they will grow from there into next year at 8th grade, the following year, continuing and growing on. And so what we do is we broke into these mixed age groups. Kids have a morning meeting, might not be very different from a setup that you have. Particularly if your child was in preschool, you remember back to then, when they get down to morning meeting. And it's a program developed by a group called Responsive Classroom, well-researched, a lot of literature there, so that's a best practice. And what we do is we utilize that not as the recipe for this group, but the framework for the teacher to know how can I best interact with this group. And then we have lots of partnerships and conversations, kind of our own little R&D, if you will, to figure out like, oh, what actually works better for this group? I know the book said this, and I was trained this way, but here's what this group of kids really needs. And we continue that throughout the course of the day. So we have a core academic area, which we use a lot of workshop model pieces, which is focusing on the reading, the writing, the math, and how you address those pieces in a personalized way. We know developmentally what kids need to know at certain grade levels, if you think of Common Core standards. We also know that if you scatter plot any 4th grader in math, their scores are all over the place. So sometimes they're on grade level, sometimes they're way above, and oh my gosh, this fraction operations thing, they got extra credit, and that's how they got their A last year. When they come to our school, they don't get extra credit and get an A. When they come to our school, it's mastery-based, competency-based learning. How do we figure out where they are, and more importantly, help them know where they are so they can drive that? Do we have outdoor time, which is a lot of social opportunity to work, engage with one another? There's more traditional wellness education, if you will, where they go outside and learn about movement, locomotor movements. A lot of my families in Effie and Ellie, like we got reports from our physical education team that actually like showed my child trying to do the broad jump, and like 4 or 5 photos showing him how to do running and hopping and skipping. So he himself, as a 6-year-old, could look and say, that's the difference between moving this way and moving that way. Again, putting that back into the child. And then we also have free time, all the way outside, all the way through middle school, because the best thing you can do, one of the best petri dishes in learning, and at home as well, parents, is to let your kids be bored. Don't overprogram them. Let them sit there on a Saturday and go, what am I going to do? What would you like to do? It's raining outside. It is. So as a parent, I say, create a choice board. And my child will sit down with his little brother who can't write yet, and they'll start creating a choice board. And they're going to do drawing for 20 minutes. And then can we do some coding on the computer for 20 minutes, for an hour? I'm like, no, 20 minutes. And then we're going to have snack time. Yeah, and then let's go outside for a rain walk. Sure. And what are we going to look for bugs. So again, this unstoppable, I call it unstoppable learning, it's cultivating that opportunity. So boredom is something we love putting kids in boredom situation. We love conflict, because that's where we start building the social emotional pieces. That's where we start teaching kids the skills they need to navigate those relationships. And then we spend another part of our day from the skill building to the skill application. That's all the project-based learning things you saw. So it's great that you're at 3rd grade level in math, you're above grade level in reading, and you're right where you need to be in writing. What are you going to do with that stuff? What are you going to do with that information? So we give them an address real life world problems. On Wednesday, all of our students and some of our families, I know a couple of folks who were here, walked out. We did the National School Walkout. As part of the National School Walkout beforehand, each of our classes, developmentally appropriate, talked about what that experience was going to be. What did they anticipate? We came back as an entire school, came back together because we were out in the community, but we wanted to make sure that we were still our own community. We came back together and we processed it. From the 5-year-olds to the 8th graders, talking about what that experience was. We talked for about 10, 15 minutes, and then they went and sat down with journals, and something we do pretty much every Friday, they did a painted reflection. So silent, when there's no music playing in the background, they thought about this prompt or what this experience was like, and they got to draw or write whatever it was important to them, giving them some time to self-reflect. And this is in a mixed age room. And then different classes, Jing, I saw her earlier around here, that class, got some classes, be over there now. This was part of a grander project that they've been doing, lots of reading around civil rights, lots of reading about social activism. 8th graders, pretty much every middle school kid these days thinks they're an activist and they want to understand how to connect with the broader world. And then on Friday, we had another multi-age day. We do these about every couple weeks, which is the whole entire focus for the whole day was theme. So again, mixed ages, 4th graders working with kindergartners, 8th graders giving projects and facilitating and leading projects with 1st graders, an opportunity for them to really focus on curiosity and creativity and build a level of confidence. So it's focused, and then at the end of the day, it's closing meeting. So having an opportunity to reflect again as a group of learners and figure out what went well. We call them shout outs, so we give a shout out. Hey, I want to give Nina a shout out for this great thing she did. And I actually want to give her some feedback for this other thing she did. I asked her 5 times like to stop poking me, and she kept poking me. When I say stop poking me, I need you to stop poking me. And our kids will have those conversations, which is amazing. And then we have after school, and after school continues on for particularly working families or community families through 6 o'clock. And we have, like my kid, he almost always whines when actually I rarely get to leave early. But if I get to leave at 4 or 4:30, he's really upset because he wants to hang out and play. So again, that's part of development of community and development of culture of folks. So I think that's a snapshot. Skill building, yes. Skill application, super important. We like to say we don't do design thinking, we do design doing, which is more important than just the thinking. We got to do some of the doing and the action as well. And then at the end of the day, and then throughout the day, it's framed around the relationships and social emotional learning. That's really, I think, the thing that differentiates us and will continue to differentiate us. That was a big answer. But as she said, we do a lot. And I think for many of the families who are currently at the school I'm at today, hopefully you saw that, and most of that is pretty much what we do already. There's really no differences, not very many differences, even underneath the iceberg, to some of the ways, what we value as educators and what we want experiences to be for our children. Other questions? Have you been to all school open house?
I have 2 questions. One is, what is going to be the teacher and student ratio? And the other one is, how big do you plan to grow the school this first year?
2 great questions. You're going to like the answer to the first one. The first one's going to be completely and highly unsustainable. We are purposely and deliberately over-investing in our staff in our first year. To go to the second question, we have a variety of kind of budgets in terms of where we're going to land and how to support the deficit that we expect to run financially. We're over-invest in our teachers, which means we're going to run a financial deficit the first year. So to do that, we're thinking we're going to have somewhere around 36 kids to start with, but we can swell up to 48 pretty easily. And this, again, would be those 3 age bands. We probably even swell up a little bit bigger because TK, 1st through 3rd, 4th through 6th, 7th, would be roughly 16 to 20 kids per group. So that's how big we could get. And we're actually going to be inhabiting a space which we could swell up a little bit more. And so that's, we can't even mention it. So there's a space that we have an NDA, but we're working through the legal paperwork to sign it off. So we're just almost at the finish line. and then we'll be able to announce very soon what that space is. And so space gives an opportunity to grow there 2, 3, 5, 10 years if we want. And we also have another space that might be 2 years away, which would be much bigger, which you can see how big do we want to be. So certainly in the TK through 8th grade, growing to about 120 to 150 students. And as we think and consider high school, looking at what the real estate is in the area, finding the space that might continue just that kind of class size growth, we'd have a high school of 120 to 150 students. Don't quote me on those. We'll be revisiting that over time, but certainly over-investing. The second reason we're over-investing is we do have a group of folks who are pretty amazing, not just folks who are at our staff, at our team today, but there's folks who have come through and worked with us in the past. And there's just like Silicon Valley is an amazing place for many fields of the world, it also brings a lot of amazing educators together. So it's a high capacity to continue to build and develop that team. So I'll have educators next year who might spend the morning working on skill building and maybe teaching math in 1st or 3rd grade. And the afternoon they're going to sit and be doing some curriculum work with the teacher in the TKK, helping them develop the mathematical part or maybe the project parts of it. Or there might be a teacher who has off in the afternoon on Tuesdays and Thursdays because she's going to come work with me and support admissions work. Because it's a really strength of hers, advertising and selling her program and sharing the things that she's doing. So an opportunity to really overinvest in those folks. And over time, in that group, if you think of a full class of 1st through 3rd graders and somewhere between 16 to 18, depending, there's normally two educators. And how they do that it varies on the day. Sometimes we do instruction. Any good school should never tell you, we always do it this way. Sometimes there's some things you do when you want everyone to be involved. It could even be 50 kids involved in this thing. That should last 20 minutes. Then you're going to do something else. That might be small groups going and working together. And those small groups might be ability grouping or skill grouping, like your 3rd grade readers, your 5th grade readers. You're going to go work on something at that level. And then I'm going to pull you back together. And then I'm going to push you back out and do independent work. And while you're working independently, we're going to do a one-on-one coaching session. It might be 5 minutes. So be able to fluidly go through a whole group, small group, independent, and coaching sessions throughout the course of the day. So even today, since I've been at Alt School, we don't really have many educators who just work in their class. They have an opportunity to interact with students across. And I think it goes back to the village. Other questions? Ask her a question.
No, actually, maybe for you. I also have 2 questions, but the first one, I don't know if I came in late and missed it. Are there any more details of the new school, you can share? And the second one is, myself jumped from startups. I'm an adult. I can deal with creativity. For kids, I really like off-school experience as a parent, but when I look at a lot of choices, smaller schools have this potentially uncertain future. I think probably other parents have that concern as well. It's not necessarily, I don't know whether it's necessarily a bad thing for kids to go through. What would you want to say about that concern? Yeah, 2 questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think I'll call it the startup hangover. And I think it's clear that our families, so for those who don't know, our family, when I say our families today, it's Alt School in Palo Alto is closing at the end of the school year. It's part of a strategic decision that Alt School is making. They're closing 3 schools to really focus on 4 schools and really focus on pushing the platform moving forward. So continue to support them, wishing them the absolute best success, but personally as a parent, and personally as an educator, it means a significant change for my family, both professionally and personally. And same for many of the families who are in this room today. So that opportunity has led to this opportunity. So my team, and many of my families, including families in this room, looks like we have a little bit of a startup hangover. And so right away, we had a few folks families who came to me and said, Chris, we'll donate money to save the school. Let's go buy this building, let's go give Alt School money, let's keep the school. And strategically, Art School was very positively disciplined and said, actually, that's not part of our plan, our success plan for the future. We can't do that. Let us know how we can support you. And they've done a lot of things to support us, which has been positive. Then families want to say, great, well, why don't you go start a school? Take this whole group, go start a school. And I said, holy cow. That's a lot of work, and I still have a full-time job. So the ability to do that was really rough. So we worked around, and we looked, and we started talking to some small schools. said, hey, maybe your small school and our small school can hang out together and we can start our own school community. And those things normally don't work for two reasons. One is when you start looking under the iceberg, pedagogically, it might sound like it's correct. I mean, how many web pages actually don't say lifelong learning, personalized education, our whole child, or project-based? Every web page should say that today, right? But when you look under the iceberg, it's different. What it looks like in practice is different. So really that pedagogical practice is different. And the second thing is ego. Like so many people, even educators, believe it or not, as you work your way to the top, you start developing an ego. So who's really going to run the school, and who has say, and actually why'd you get in education, or why are you on the board? Anyone who's been on the board, a lot of ego there. And so those two things kind of got in our way a little bit. But what we realized we had in common as we talked to folks is we wanted to do right by the kids, and do right by the family. So continue to focus on that. And again, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, as we were having these conversations of, great, that's the reality. What we want to do is avoid a startup hangover. How can I tell myself, I don't want to go work at a place, get it up and going for another 3 years, and then it goes away. I don't want my child and now my second child coming in, so that experience goes away. So I wanted financial sustainability. Two things have happened, which has been pretty amazing. One thing is many of our current families, some of them, the original folks who started talking to me as soon as school closed, others new folks who started talking to me since school closed, said we want your community to be successful. We know it's not going to be everybody.